2022 수능특강 Chapter 1 Number 1 Can't leave the office or home to volunteer? No problem. Like almost everything these days, there is also a way to volunteer and help others out from the comfort of your living room couch or office chair. Many organizations need help with administrative tasks that can be completed digitally. If you are a computer whiz and are working at a job where you are supposed to look busy even when you are not, virtual volunteering might be the way to offer your expertise or mentor someone while still taking care of work at your desk. Our website lists countless virtual volunteering opportunities. Go there to find one that suits your interests. With just a computer or phone, you can lend your talents to anything from advocacy and human rights to education and literacy, even to organizations that are not necessarily close to home. Tasks can range from making phone calls to helping get out the vote to designing a nonprofit's website. Stop by our website and start virtual volunteering today. Number 2. At Metro Bank, we try to provide banking facilities of highest quality in order to accurately meet our customers' needs. To do this, it is essential that we listen to what our customers have to say. We would like you to help us by giving us your opinion of Metro Bank services. We are asking an independent market research company, MIC Limited, to interview a number of customers over the next few weeks. MIC Limited is a reliable company, and your individual responses will be kept completely confidential. They will be conducting the interviews by telephone, so an interviewer may telephone you at some point over the next few weeks. Because MIC Limited will choose who to interview, you might not be contacted at all. If you are, we would value your contribution and hope you will be able to help us if asked. Number 3. Dear friend, at Christmas time, our auditorium is transformed into a dinner club with festive lights, entertainment, a full-course turkey dinner, and, of course, Santa Claus. Our patients and their loved ones have the chance to be together to enjoy themselves in a pleasant atmosphere at this time of year when families should be together. This is Café Noël, one of the many special holiday events we at Cavalry host for our patients and their families. Cavalry Hospital plans Café Noël at Christmas time every year. But to continue this unique program, we need your help. Your holiday gift of $15, $20, or $25, or whatever you can afford at this time, will help us to make the holidays a very special time for our patients and their loved ones. Please send your holiday gift today. Sincerely, Patricia A. Cahill, Executive Director. Number 4. Dear Mayor Johnson, I have always appreciated the open line of communication you keep with your residents and your willingness to take action on their concerns. I have noticed something else that could improve our city. Although the zoo has been expanded and the Children's Museum recently opened up, our city doesn't have a splash park for children. A splash park would provide kids with a convenient place to get exercise and stay cool in hot summer. And it would be free, benefiting all the families with children. Normally, splash parks are installed in a regular park. I think that the park near the post office would work since it has a lot of room. Your consideration of this proposition would be much appreciated. Thank you for reading my letter. I look forward to your reply. Sincerely, Stella Baker.
Chapter 2,
Number 1. Just as I was approaching 30, I was offered a sponsorship to go to the Ladies Professional Golf Association in the USA and attend their qualifying school. But I was very concerned about my family rather than thinking it was a good opportunity. If I accepted the sponsorship offer, I couldn't continue to work for Mom, to help her out and to earn us some extra income between amateur golf tours. This would mean there would be less money coming in to begin with, though the sponsorship money would support me through qualifying school. Of course, there is a small chance I could make the grade to become a professional, which should lead to higher earning opportunities. It was a risk for us financially. I don't want to leave you in trouble, Mom. Never mind about that, daughter. Of course you must do this. It's a wonderful opportunity. We'll manage. She smiled. We always have up to now, and it's time for you to step out and take the chance. Are you sure? Of course I'm sure. If you don't give it a go, you'll always regret it. I was so glad to receive her support. Thanks to her words, I was able to move on to my goal with a lighter heart. Number 2. It was the day when I had the opportunity to attend my first board meeting. I arrived early. It was a great honor that I had been asked to join them as a board member. Their mission was important. The other members were powerful, highly respected women from across the nation. I'd heard about their work and their reputations for years. I was finally going to get a chance to meet them. As I walked into the meeting room, someone from the organization was already there, getting ready for the meeting. Caterers were bringing in delicious treats and hot coffee. I looked at the big mahogany table and quickly saw that name tags and binders were already being arranged and placed on the table. I saw my name, with a handwritten note from the president, welcoming me to my first meeting. Quite frankly, I couldn't believe what my eyes were seeing. Number 3. Callie turned away from the Christmas tree and saw her mother fussing at the kitchen sink. She was a few inches shorter than Callie and still healthy at 53. She looked to be in her early 40s with fine wisdom lines showing only when she smiled. Today she was smiling. She loved nothing better than to have all of her children in the house sharing fun and food. The table was lined with shrimp and cocktail sauce, hot wings with dips, Swedish meatballs, ham and turkey, not to mention the variety of vegetables and dinner rolls. There was far too much food for 13 people, but the leftovers were always divided up and the tradition continued. Mom called the family into the living room. "It's that time," she smiled as she handed out stockings to everyone. This too was a tradition. The stockings held small things for each individual as well as candies and fun stuff. Number 4. The door opened into our office area, and a voice said to the secretary, "Where does Bolea sit?" It was the CEO's, and I could hear him walking toward my office. He was a tall, muscular man. Suddenly, he was standing in my doorway with his right arm raised. I was thinking, he's going to punch me. I was frozen as he walked over to the desk. I braced myself for the impact as he laid his arm on my shoulder and said, "Nice job, Bolea. It took a lot of courage to speak against me, and you showed a lot of integrity. You never backed down, and you described a future for the company that I had not considered." As he walked out the door, he said, "I wanted you to be the first to know that I approved the project you suggested." I was stunned. I had gone from near fainting for fear of losing my job to the delighted state of a conquering warrior, satisfied with myself for sticking up for what I felt was right. Within minutes, people were walking into my office congratulating me. an uplifting experience that had me holding my head up high. Chapter 3, Number 1. We are often told that there is no innovation without competition, which is absurd, given that most of the greatest inventions in science and technology have resulted from the sharing of research across academic silos, national borders, and language barriers. In truth, no great innovations occur in isolation. Personally, I have been asked to sign an awfully large number of non-disclosure agreements from other researchers terrified that their ideas will get out. But in truth, I've found this approach counterproductive. Those who hold their cards too close to the vest are rarely the ones who play the winning hand. It is when we share our findings with people with other areas of expertise or perspectives, or seek feedback about our concept from someone in a different field, or try out our idea with potential users, that suddenly the real potential starts to emerge. Number 2. A family from Israel who moved to Northern California was amazed by the isolation they experienced when they moved into their San Francisco neighborhood. They had lived in a kibbutz, where they experienced a strong sense of community in every sense of the word. When we moved here, said the father, it was a culture shock. People nodded and smiled with a brief hello coming and going, and then disappeared into their own dwelling, and we wouldn't see them again for days at a time. One night, my wife suggested that if the mountain wasn't going to come to Muhammad, then Muhammad must go to the mountain. It was at that point that we realized we had a gift to bring to our neighbors, the gift of community. Over the next few months, the family organized a block party, a neighborhood yard sale, and an open house brunch. Each was a big success. People became friends, and the connections snowballed. A small babysitting co-op began in the neighborhood, as well as a family neighborhood cleanup event that took place at the beginning of each season on a Saturday morning. Number 3. It may sound rather trite to say that the first function of the picture is to show its object, but the object of the picture is not always the one you think it is. It's obvious through the photographs the journalist brings back from the field that he shows the situation he witnessed. Through the paintings he produces, the painter shows his subject as much as his own sensibility. And the filmmaker, through the film he makes, can also show his own vision of the world. Thus, through these few examples, you can understand that behind the open door, several differences are hidden. But perhaps that's not the main thing. In fact, whether it's fictional or informative, it is very rare that the picture isn't accompanied by a comment, however incomplete it may be, that specifies its meaning or context. It may be a title in the case of a painting, or an article of several hundred words in the case of a press photo, or the outlines of a scenario in the case of a film. Number 4. To destroy a whale is a monumental denial of life and merely one symbol of the human species' rather recent hatred for the world. We have named one whale killer, but that shoe best fits the species who possesses feet to wear it. Whales are more appreciated than ever, and whale watching yields more lucre than killing does. In that appeal to our self-centeredness lies their best hope. But even if all of us gain the emotional and intellectual maturity to finally divest ourselves from harming them, we may yet lose them in an ocean of plastics, chemicals, fishing tangles, spinning propellers, speeding hulls, and noise. All whales now have trouble competing with the aquatic primate for the fishes of the seas. The more humans feel the world, the more we empty it. Number 5. There are people who do not obsessively go after the latest digital devices, taking their time before changing hardware. There are even some people who have developed a taste for vintage technology, not only for vintage decoration or fashion. None of these cases reveal an ultimate or total renouncement of technology, but rather a temporary interruption of its use or a preference for a slower pace. We consider it appropriate to include in this list the so-called slow movement, with its taste for slowness and tranquility, since often technologies are used precisely to speed up some processes in life. The movement was born as an alternative to fast food, but quickly it spread to other realms of life. Whoever chooses slowness may indeed practice a form of technological silence. In this path of slowness, we also find the many forms of meditation, whether traditional or new, that are so fashionable nowadays, and that can be seen as a way of temporarily refrain from technology. Number 6. Modern scientific writing in English began in the 17th century with authors such as Francis Bacon, Robert Boyle, and Isaac Newton. This period was characterized by intense debates over the nature of language generally. At issue was the presumed power of words to control knowledge, as Bacon put it, to force and overrule the understanding, throw all into confusion, and lead men away into numberless empty controversies and idle fancies. Bacon was thus the first to claim revolt against Elizabethan styles of writing, which of course included Shakespearean drama. These, he said, pulled a veil between the intellect and the world. To advance knowledge, especially the new experimental philosophy, there was a simple, direct, and unadorned form of speech needed. This would lift the veil and provide an equal number of words as of things. Number 7. That so many species now live alongside us in human-modified environments, whether on intensive farmland in Britain or in regenerating forest in Costa Rica, is not to say that any human society, past or present, has ever lived in harmony with nature. This is absolutely not the case. The harmonious coexistence of humans and the rest of nature in the distant past is a romanticized and largely fictional notion. Present-day conservation often attempts to recreate these idealized ecosystems, for example, by the reintroduction of hunter-gatherer style burning of vegetation in America, Africa, and Australia, and by reinstating now uneconomic medieval farming and forestry practices in Europe and Asia. In truth, our relationship with nature is, and always was, less romantic. We eat nature. We take up space that wild nature would otherwise occupy. We have used whatever technologies have been available to us at a particular time to consume or oust wild creatures, often with great success. As a consequence, we are living through a time of extinction. Number 8. Emerson said, "What you are speaks so loudly that people can't hear what you say." Of course, one of the greatest principles of effective advertisement copywriting is to believe yourself what you are trying to make others believe. Somebody asked me in the marketing course I was giving at New York University, "What do you think is the first requirement for success in advertising?" I said, "Good health." That is nothing to laugh about. I can't conceive how a dyspeptic could write a good mincemeat copy, or a man with rheumatism could write about the joy of riding over mountain roads in an automobile. You have to have good human equipment to enjoy the things you are trying to sell, or you can't make other people enjoy them. I believe the public has a sixth sense of detecting insincerity, and we run a tremendous risk if we try to make other people believe in something we don't believe in. Somehow, our sin will find us out. Chapter 4, Number 1. Unless we are very, very careful, we doom each other by holding on to images of one another based on perceptions that are in turn based on indifference to what is other than ourselves. This indifference can be, in its extreme, a form of murder and seems to me a rather common phenomenon. We claim autonomy for ourselves and forget that in so doing we can fall into the tyranny of defining other people as we would like them to be. By focusing on what we choose to acknowledge in them, we impose an insidious control on them. I notice that I have to pay careful attention in order to listen to others with an openness that allows them to be as they are, or as they think themselves to be. The shutters of my mind habitually flip open and click shut, and these little snaps form into patterns I arrange for myself. The opposite of this inattention is love, is the honoring of others in a way that grants them the grace of their own autonomy and allows mutual discovery. Number 2. Designing, building, operating, upgrading, and eventually retiring infrastructure projects is an expensive process. As aging infrastructure is repaired and retrofitted, and as new infrastructure is constructed, incorporating future risks from climate change impacts into their design, construction, and operation must become routine. Failing to take those risks into account will likely lead to increased maintenance and operating costs and shortened service life. Failing to screen projects for climate resilience will lead to more waste and more infrastructure collapse. The stronger infrastructure required may come with a significant upfront cost, but employing thoughtful design strategies can allow for making relatively modest resilience investments now, while still planning for more extreme events down the road. This approach could well be cheaper than having to retrofit the infrastructure from scratch if conditions worsen beyond expectations. Number 3. All musics have a history, and all music changes, has always been changing, though at various rates, and not always in the same direction. It would be foolish to assume that the music of India, because it is largely melodic and without harmony, somehow represents an earlier stage through which Western music has already passed, or that Europeans, in the days when they lived in tribes, had music similar to that of Native Americans. Musics do not uniformly change from simple to complex. Each music has its own unique history, related to the history of its culture, to the way people adapt to their natural and social environment. The patterns we may discern in the world's music history usually have to do with the relationships of cultures to one another. Thus, in the 20th century, as Western-derived culture has affected most others, most non-Western musics now show some influences of Western music. However, the results of this influence vary from culture to culture. Number 4. Archaeology is a mode of production of the past. This would seem to be recognized by those many archaeologists and textbooks that talk at length of archaeological techniques. Archaeology seen as technology. The past has left remains, and they decay in the ground. According to their interest, an archaeologist works on the material remains to make something of them. So excavation is invention, discovery, or sculpture where archaeologists craft remains of the past into forms which are meaningful. The archaeological record is, accordingly, not a record at all, but made, not given. data. The past is gone and lost, and a fortiori through the equivocality of things and the character of society as constituted through meaning never existed as a definitive entity, the present anyway. The archaeologist has a raw material, the remains of the past, and turns it into something, data, a report, set of drawings, a museum exhibition, an archive, a television program, evidence in an academic controversy, and perhaps that which is termed knowledge of the past. This is a mode of production. Number 5. An educational institution that I have been associated with recently went through a particularly traumatic time when the credibility of the administration was questioned by the faculty and staff. Various organizational consultants were interviewed to facilitate a healing process. Most of the consultants spoke of making the necessary structural changes to create a culture of trust. The institution finally hired a consultant whose attitude was that organizational structure has nothing to do with trust. Interpersonal relations based on mutual respect and an atmosphere of goodwill are what creates a culture of trust. Would you rather work as part of a school with an outstanding reputation, or work as part of a group of outstanding individuals? Many times these two characteristics go together, but if one had to make a choice, I believe that most people would opt to work with outstanding individuals. Number 6. We all have been blessed with intellect. It is up to us to develop what we have been given. The true intellectual does not gloat in what she knows, for no one has the capacity to know everything, and only the fool pretends otherwise. Knowledge has no finish line. Instead, as with life, it is merely a perpetual marathon full of potential and pitfalls. Intellect is not to be celebrated. It should be constantly and humbly improved. The more one learns, the more one understands that he or she actually knows very little. Mastering one topic means very little in the sense that an infinite amount of new topics remain alive and waiting to be tackled. There is no better way to travel the journey of life than with a book held greedily in hand. Number 7. Much of the written evidence historians of ancient times must use is the equivalent of what our legal system calls hearsay. It comes from writers who lived long after the events that they relate, and often contains much local folklore and tradition that may or may not be accurate. Furthermore, sometimes the level of hearsay between the witness and the original event is even greater. The writings of some ancient authors survive only in quotations from their work by other ancient figures. The history of Egypt, written by Manetho, an Egyptian priest of the early 3rd century BCE, is known only through such quotations. The same is true for the work of the Hellenistic Babylonian priest Berossus. Thus, not only were these authors writing long after the events they were describing, but we also have the added problem of trying to decide whether or not they were quoted correctly. Obviously, the historian has to analyze such sources with great care and seek independent validation of their testimony from archaeology or other texts. Number 8. Ordinary citizens are often keen to blame minority or culturally oppressed groups for their problems or failures. Often this can be explained by ignorance or fear. If we do not know or understand the culture of a minority or oppressed group, it is easy to see its behavior as unacceptable or uncivilized, and therefore not worthy of consideration or respect. Only when we come to understand another culture's ways can we start to realize that it is, like ours, only human and neither totally wrong nor totally right. It should be a part of a journalist's role to give readers the information they need to reach sensible decisions, not to play on their fears and prejudices. If journalists tell people only what they expect to hear about minority or oppressed groups, then the debate about their position in society is not advanced. It is part of the journalist's duty to help advance society's awareness of such problems by providing people with a wider truth than their existing prejudices. Chapter 5, Number 1. Our addiction to criticizing others is a huge block to effectively giving feedback. When we criticize, even if we choose our words with care, we are likely to assign others to a specific potentially harmful status. We are likely to assign others, for instance, to the status of being wrong. No one likes to be labeled wrong. Most people get defensive when they are labeled, even when sure they are not wrong. And what's more important, defensive people block messages. Unless you are trying not to be understood, then criticism is not an effective communication strategy. And it doesn't help to call it constructive either. Saying something like, "I'm telling you this for your own development, your design is all wrong," isn't going to produce positive results. Criticism is criticism. It blocks understanding. Number 2. The competitive arena is, by its very nature, difficult, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Despite their best efforts, athletes can never prepare for every eventuality that may occur in competition or control everything that may influence their performances. Routines offer a structure within which to prepare for performance and the flexibility to adjust to the uncertain nature of competition. Because routines are not inviolate, but rather provide a guide for athletes to follow, they can also be readily altered to fit the demands of a unique or unexpected competitive environment. Unforeseen changes in the competitive setting, such as weather, unexpected opponents, late arrival, insufficient warm-up space, and broken or lost equipment, can have a disturbing and disruptive effect on athletes before a competition. Athletes often perform below expectations because they are unable to respond appropriately to these occurrences or become unsettled mentally. For example, lose motivation or confidence, get distracted, or experience anxiety. Athletes with well-organized yet flexible routines will be better able to respond positively to these challenges, keep calm, and maintain a high level of performance. Number 3. We tend to think of myths as rather silly old stories about the adventures and misadventures of gods, warriors, and demons, invented by primitive people to explain a world they could not understand in our modern scientific sense. But it is a mistake to dismiss these stories as trivial and old-fashioned, with no more important meaning for humanity. Scholars, such as Joseph Campbell and Claude Lévi-Strauss, have shown that common themes and myths from many diverse cultures speak to us about the universal concerns of all people and about ways of thought that all humans share. As we move increasingly toward a unified world, a global village, as it has been called, it is important to see how much basic human nature we all share. The systemic study of mythology reveals important points about the human psyche, about universal human motivations, fears, and thought patterns. Number 4. When we think of medieval Europe, there is a tendency to think primarily in terms of what is visible today, the buildings and cathedrals, the literature, and the scholastic philosophy. Yet what is of equal importance, particularly from the standpoint of the rise of modern science, is the fact that medieval culture was a mechanically sophisticated culture, even if little remains today of their machines. For example, Albertus Magnus, the teacher of Aquinas, is rumored to have had a robot in his laboratory that could raise a hand and give a greeting. The story is no doubt apocryphal, but there was in any case a great interest in machines, even if science itself was primitive and qualitative. What is clear is that the spread of mechanical clock technology was underway by the beginning of the 14th century. It is also clear that there was a multiplicity of machines at this time with clockwork mechanisms ranging from monastic alarms, musical machines, and astronomical simulators to striking clocks. Chapter 6, Number 1. Many of us tend to feel uncomfortable making requests of anyone beyond our inner circle of family and close friends. But in doing so, we vastly underestimate the responsiveness of weak ties, our acquaintances and people we don't know very well. Weak ties are extremely valuable because they are the bridges between social circles. Novel information, new solutions to problems, and other resources travel across these bridges. We also vastly underestimate the responsiveness of dormant ties, the connections we once had that we haven't maintained. For example, most people wouldn't even consider reaching out to a high school classmate they haven't seen in 25 years to ask for a job lead. We assume such attempts to reconnect would be rejected, or that our former classmate would resent our reaching out only to ask for a favor. But most people in our past would actually welcome hearing from and helping you, according to organizational researchers. The passage of time doesn't erase a shared history of understanding, emotions, and trust. Number 2. Many times our greatest growth periods come through the experience of pain. Those of us who have experienced a dark time in life through serious illness or emotional trauma know the opportunity it brings for enormous wisdom and insight. Sometimes we have to experience the contrast of darkness in order to find the light. Indeed, there are lessons within our lives that may be much more apparent in the darkness of our despair because we focus more intensely when there are fewer things to see. It is like walking into a dark room. At first, we can see nothing. Yet after our eyes have had a chance to refocus, we begin to see particular items in the room, even though the room is still dark. Likewise, we can have some very profound insights about areas of our life that need improvement while we are quietly lying in bed recovering from an illness, away from our hectic daily routines. Number 3. Privacy has not always characterized American families. Before the 19th century, people felt free to enter others' homes and tell them what to wear and how to treat their children. The development of the value of family privacy and autonomy emerged with the separation of home and work and the growth of cities under the late 19th century. Innovations in the amenities available within the home over the years, indoor plumbing, refrigerators, telephones, radios, televisions, central air conditioning, home computers, tablets, and smart speakers, for example, have all increased the privacy and isolation of American households. Our need to leave home for entertainment, goods, or services has been considerably reduced. Air conditioners, for instance, allow us to spend hot, stuffy summer evenings inside our own homes, instead of on the front porch or at the local ice cream shop. With the internet, text messaging, social media, and home shopping cable networks, family members can survive without ever leaving the privacy of their home. The institution of family has become increasingly self-contained and private. Number 4. Social media and the possibility of connecting people across the globe through communication and information platforms may seem like a tool for tolerance because technology enables people to see and participate in worlds beyond their own. We often identify teens, in particular, as the great beneficiaries of this new cosmopolitanism. However, when we look at how social media is adopted by teens, it becomes clear that the internet doesn't level inequality in any practical or widespread way. The patterns are all too familiar. Prejudice, racism, and intolerance are pervasive. Many of the social divisions that exist in the offline world have been replicated and in some cases amplified online. Those old divisions shape how teens experience social media and the information that they encounter. This is because while technology does allow people to connect in new ways, it also reinforces existing connections. It does enable new types of access to information, but people's experiences of that access are uneven at best. Chapter 7, Number 1. How U.S. adults from different age groups responded when asked if they believed in soulmates in 2020. The above graph shows how U.S. adults responded when asked if they believed in soulmates by age group in 2020. In all of the age groups, more than half the people surveyed responded that they believed in soulmates, with the 45 to 54 age group having the highest percentage of yes answers, and the 18 to 24 age group having the lowest. When it came to disbelieving in soulmates, the percentage of people in the 25 to 34 age group was the same as that of people in the 35 to 44 age group. The percentage of respondents who stated they didn't believe in the existence of soulmates was the highest in the 18 to 24 age group and the lowest in the 55 and up age group. The percentage of people who said that they didn't know if they believed in the existence of soulmates was below 20% in all age groups except the 55 and up age group. The percentage point gap between the respondents who said they believed in and didn't believe in the existence of soulmates was the smallest in the 35 to 44 age group. Number 2. Percentage of men and women aged 60 years or over living independently by region in 2010. The above graph shows the percentages of elderly men and women aged 60 or over living independently, alone, or with a spouse only in 2010 by region. Globally, 40% of elderly women and 41% of elderly men lived independently after age 60. Africa, Asia, and Latin America and the Caribbean had lower percentages of elderly men and women living independently than the world average. Europe had the highest percentages of elderly men and women living independently, immediately followed by Northern America. The percentage of elderly men living independently was higher than that of their female counterparts in each of the regions except in Europe. The percentage of elderly women living alone was lower than that of elderly women living with a spouse only in each of the regions except in Africa. Number 3. 2012 to 2018 Global Games Market. The above graph shows the revenues of the global games market per segment from 2012 to 2018. The total revenues of the global games market steadily increased from $70.6 billion in 2012 to $137.9 billion in 2018. During this period, mobile games grew from the smallest segment to the biggest, eventually taking up more than half of the total revenues of the entire global games market in 2018. While the revenue of mobile games was less than half of that of console games in 2012, it was more than that of console games in 2015. The revenue of PC games was 30% or more of the total revenues for 5 years before it dropped to under 25% in 2017. While console games generated the most revenue among the 3 segments in 2012, their proportion of overall revenues continuously shrank thereafter. Number 4. Percentage of 2011 to 2012 beginning post-secondary students who ever changed majors in the U.S. The graph above shows the percentages of post-secondary students who ever changed majors within 3 years of initial enrollment by original declared field of study. Whereas 35% of students who had originally declared a STEM major changed their field of study, 29% of those who had originally declared a non-STEM major did so. Mathematics majors changed majors at a higher rate than students in any other field across both STEM and non-STEM majors. Among students in STEM fields, those majoring in engineering and engineering technology changed majors at a lower rate than did students majoring in computer and information sciences. Among students in non-STEM fields, students who started out to study education were the likeliest of all to change their majors. 37% of those who initially declared education as their major ended up majoring in something else. Among students in non-STEM fields, students in other applied fields had the lowest major change rate at 22%, followed by those in healthcare fields at 26%. Chapter 8, Number 1. Noma Safari Camp is a tented camp in the remote northeast of Namibia, the ancestral land of the Johansi Bushmen, offering an intensive and authentic Bushman experience. The accommodation is comfortable and consists of 10 safari tents with bathrooms and hot water showers. In the mornings, guests go hunting with the tribal hunters, looking for spring hare and porcupine, or foraging for veld foods if there are no tracks. They will even learn how to make arrow poison and traditional hunting equipment. Afternoons can be spent watching the Johansi make their traditional crafts, such as ostrich eggshell jewelry, and playing traditional games. In the evenings, there are elephant or giraffe dances, which have been performed by the healers to cure the sick and relieve tension within the community for thousands of years. The local community benefits economically from sharing their activities with the guests, and the camp provides them with medicines and transport to a clinic 90 kilometers away. Number 2. America Reads is a national service program that was established after the results of a number of research studies revealed that American students who cannot read well by the 4th grade have higher dropout rates and more difficulty achieving success in their lives. The goal of America Reads is to make certain that every child in the United States can read well by the end of the 3rd grade. America Reads trains volunteers as reading tutors. Volunteers can be parents, teachers, students, senior citizens, and other professionals. These volunteers help individual children and families support classroom activities and organize community reading initiatives. America Reads tutors can be involved in classrooms, after-school programs, Head Start programs, early childhood programs, and reading with children at home. In addition, America Reads supports non-direct service programs that support and benefit literacy activities, including book drives, coordinating parental involvement projects, and fixing up school libraries. Number 3. San Antonio YMCA Gymnastics Program. The San Antonio YMCA Gymnastics Program is an instructional program offered year-round, and classes start the first Monday and Thursday of each month. The program engages children in a wide variety of activities designed to promote physical growth. Day and time. Mondays or Thursdays, beginner gymnastics, 5 p.m. to 5:45 p.m. Members, $30 per month. Non-members, $45 per month. Mondays, advanced gymnastics, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. $40 a month for members, $55 a month for non-members. Private lessons by appointment only. Members, $25 per hour. Non-members, $40 per hour. Location, San Antonio YMCA, 420 North Street, Pottsville, Pennsylvania, 18241. Notes. Each class begins with a 15-minute warm-up with the instructor. Participants must be at least 4 years old. Registration is required 1 week prior to the first class. For more information, please visit our website at www.sanantonioymca.com. Number 4. School Canteen Mural Design Competition. Theme: Good Food, Good Mood. Design a mural on all sides of the school canteen. This competition is open to all Westwood High School students and faculty members. Rules: incorporate spaces for blackboards and notice boards on the south and east walls. Blackboards do not have to be square or rectangular in shape. Use different shapes if you want. Prizes: $100 gift certificate for the winner. $30 gift certificate for 2 other finalists. Pick up your mural design sheets from the school office. The deadline to submit designs is Friday, September 17th, 2021. 1 submission per person is allowed. The mural competition winner will have their design recreated on the walls of the canteen by local spray artist Jackson. Number 5. Save big with a museum membership. Choose a Providence Children's Museum membership that suits your family and enjoy unlimited admission and all the privileges of membership for an entire year. Family membership, $125. A year of unlimited admission for up to 4 people at Providence Children's Museum. $50 off birthday parties. 10% off museum merchandise. Invitations to exhibit openings, special events, and member-exclusive programs. Family Plus membership, $175. A year of unlimited admission for up to 6 people at Providence Children's Museum. Includes all the great benefits of a family membership plus discounted admission to nearly 200 children's museums nationwide. For questions about memberships, contact us at member@provkidsmuseum.org or 401-273-3457. Number 6. Fennel, a member of the carrot family, was cultivated in Europe throughout ancient times and the Middle Ages. The fennel, whose stalk and seed were eaten by the Greeks and Romans, was the original wild form native to southern Europe and is known as bitter fennel. Its seeds were used in seasoning mixtures and its stalks in stews and pickles. As early as the 9th century AD, a distinction was made between bitter and sweet fennel, with the latter being the own specially flavored in medieval cookery. The stalk was frequently added to vegetable and meat dishes, and the seed dried, sugar-coated, and eaten as a breath freshener at the end of a meal. Physicians classified fennel as dry and warm, and described it as good for the eyes, for the movement of the bladder and bowels, and for the flow of milk. It was recommended for colds and digestive problems. Number 7. Werner Bischoff is regarded as one of the foremost international photojournalists of the post-war era. In 1942, he joined the editorial staff of the Swift magazine Do, working primarily as a fashion photographer. In 1945, he traveled all over Europe to document the destruction left by war. He joined the Magnum Group in 1949. Although the change to photojournalism forced Bischoff to alter his work methods, he nonetheless retained his sensitivity for technical perfection. In 1951, he received an assignment from the American Life magazine to travel to the hunger-stricken areas of Bihar and to North and Central India. The resulting photographic essay, Famine in India, brought Bischoff his first international success. In later years, Bischoff traveled to places such as Japan, Hong Kong, Indochina, and Korea, where he was fascinated by children who, despite poverty and war, demonstrated remarkable resilience. One of Bischoff's best-known children's photographs is Boy Playing the Flute near Cuzco, Peru. Bischoff made that photograph only a few days before his fatal accident in the Peruvian Andes. Number 8. Treehouse Academy Kids Night Out. Looking for a fun night out for your child? Sign them up for Treehouse Academy Kids Night Out. Children will enjoy supervised play on gymnastics equipment, trampolines, and tumble tracks. The evening will be filled with fun games, pizza, a movie, and more. Groups are welcome, so your child can bring their friends. Important details. For children aged 4 to 14 years old, select Saturday nights from 5:30 p.m. to 9 p.m. Each child must wear a shirt and shorts. No jewelry is allowed to be worn. Register online or by calling Treehouse Academy. Cost: individual, $45 per child. Group discount, 2 or more, $30 per child. Number 9. Evans High School 2021 Reading Challenge. The Evans High School 2021 Reading Challenge encourages students to find a love of reading for leisure and pleasure and enables them to experience quality literature. It is not a competition, but a challenge for each student to read, to read more, and to read more widely. The Reading Challenge starts on Monday, March 1st, and ends on Friday, August 27th. It is open to students of grades 8 to 10. Students must read a total of 20 books. Minimum 15 books from the Reading Challenge book list and maximum 5 books of personal choice. Books that are on the Reading Challenge book lists have been labeled with stickers to help students identify them. Please visit our website or see Miss Duncan in the library for assistance to sign up. Number 10. 2022 Polar Bear Plunge. Show your bravery by walking, running, or crawling into the freezing winter waters. Date and time: Sunday, February 6th. The first plunge is at 10 a.m. Place: Woodstone Lake Beach. All money raised will benefit Therapeutic Adventures, a non-profit that provides opportunities for those with disabilities and illnesses to experience the outdoors through camps and adaptive sports clinics. Cost: $25 per person. The first 50 participants will receive a long-sleeved polar bear plunge shirt. Prizes will be awarded for most money raised by individual and by team, biggest team, and best costume. Prizes include ski passes and mountain bike passes at Massanutten Resort. Registration: minimum age to participate is 10 years old. Plunge participants may register as individuals or as a team. Teams must have a minimum of 3 participants. No team registrations will be taken on the day of the plunge. Register online at massresort.com.